Take you back outside? Take you back outside? What's good enough for you? Some charcoal water? Want some charcoal? It's got lemon in it too. What's going on, guys? Don't worry, I'm not gonna read right now. I want to discuss something, and then Westside's gonna be going live. He had a pretty good live a little while ago, and I just wanted to discuss a few things because, I would love to see people come over here who are still kind of. I don't care about you being religious. I have no problem with that. Just put both feet in. As far as you see the statements, you see the declaration I'm making about certain things here, as far as fascism, communism, conservative liberalism. Nobody ever touches the grassroots or the ground bases. That people explore and discuss them in ways to perverse them or show them how perverted they are, or to express or expel or to annotate, to add to. You know what I'm saying? And I have this niche. Even in the military, how fast I moved up in rank and becoming one of the first E4 collateral duty inspectors, publications, which is an assortment of all books, where I can expect everybody's job, whether it be an AD power plant, AE, AT, PR, parachute rigger, whatever it was, and all the weapons that I went, those aren't even all the weapons that I showed you that I'm qualified on, that I stay qualified on. Because of the gun range and certain things like that. And to all my veteran brothers and sisters, if you had somebody that died in World War II, and it's based upon the war we had, because we created. And this is another thing that bothers me with most people here who are barbecuing and everything else. It is not a happy Memorial Day. There's nothing happy about it, because our people are the ones that created it. Like everything else, the three motors that you see running today, from the electric, the reciprocal, and the piston driven. All that we created. When it comes to X-ray, the cell phone, everything we created. The cell phone by a brother in the 80s in Detroit. You know, when we look at the brain surgery, the heart surgery, the pacemaker, we look at the stoplight, we look at the seat belt, we look at all these different things that we have given to this society, and these small hack Zionists, false, fake Ashkenazis keep hiding in the perversion. And then you look at the other individuals who, whether it be a calling or a sleep state or whatever, how diabolical it is. So I have a lot of people who I grew up with, and some people say I was never a liberal. I never was liberal-minded. I always knew we were the Republicans. Like, why would I be a liberal who took our guns away, keep us from being protected, bomb our places, this, that, and the other, infiltrated, the easy way to infiltrate? Why would I be that? Some people say, well, you might have voted for it. Well, you know what? When I was still believing that it was possible that somebody might get in office that was good, until I realized out of the 5 or 6 or 7 people you see standing up there debating, there were thousands who ran. And they were not part of the agenda, nor related to all the establishment of liars, whether fake kings, queens, or anything. So what I want to share, I want to read this. It's going to be a little reading, but it's not going to be the books that we're going to read later on. I'm going to find out what time Westside's going to. I hope it's vampire hours, because I am well rested, so I could be up with a little bit of ganja water on me and a little bit of the silverback gorilla of my boy DJ, and you're going to carry me forward and through. So anyway, to our ancestors who died in this fictional civil war, and any other of these false Ashkenazi small hat Zionist narrative wars, all right, there were nothing more than human sacrifices and debauchery to change the narrative of history and pervert it further, I say salute. Spiritual pathology. I'm going to go ahead and turn this down low. I want to listen to music because it's very calming for me today. I was going to play some jazz. I had some dark country, which is actually free. I could have put it on the loop, about 7 minutes worth, and just looped it, and it's beautiful. I like listening to it when I'm reading. Spiritual pathology, the case of Adolf Hitler. Now, this is by W. George Scarlett. And I looked up at this individual, excellent orator, writer, and everything. Composer of literacy. That's what I say, because you can find frequency even in the letters and the writing. As you know, they are spells. So when you speak something like the word nice, you know what it alludes to. All right? When it says grand or raise, grand meaning what? Is it elusive to the opposite? You really need to look at these things. I'm not sitting there saying go read these dictionaries and encyclopedias and all. What I'm saying is allow yourself to ascertain something opposite or other than what's being ascertained. First of all, hey, Snoop Grey Wolf, what's going on? Hey, salute, hey, T. Hines, Rondo, Mikey. Appreciate y'all all being here. Matthew, hey, salute, number, love, and respect. Let me read this to you. I want you to pay attention very closely. Now, there are plethora of writings. I have a couple of small pamphlets on Hitler too that alludes to this, even to what I know. Now, regardless of what role he played, whether he died or not, I want you to pay attention to this. In abstract, Hitler had a noble purpose to save the world and a strong faith in the laws of nature. As he understood nature, he was then a spiritual person. Though his spirituality was pathological and destructive, here the example of Hitler is faith. And his spiritual pathology is given to both understand spiritual pathology in general and through contrast to understand a positive spiritual development. So even though I have other books other than illness as a metaphor, I have stuff on pathology and the science of it and everything else. What am I talking about? First of all, Hitler saw what the Ashkenazi were doing over there, regardless of him being half or whatever you might want to say or ascertain. Because you got to remember, Ashkenazi were a set apart people from their own people, as far as history writes it. And those books have been removed. And y'all ever looked at the story of Gom and Yaphet? Have any of y'all ever actually gotten to the apocryphy and looked at the stories of these individuals? Y'all really should do that research, to which no preacher or no theologian or anyone has ever done. Do I have to be there first again? You see, I was talking about certain things. Now you see everybody talking about these things. Pay attention to the small details. What they're doing is they're out of themselves, because I've had people hit me up in the message. Dude, I wasn't following you, and I saw what this one did, and she did, and that. Yeah, so for those who just subscribe, thank you. Bring some more over, because I have a story to tell. And none of them know the story. All they keep doing is being bandwagoners, writing off the material and the history and the studies that I've and travels that have circumvented over the last since AOL and MySpace. It's all caught wind and the fire is burning and everybody's running with it as if they found it in their lethargic mentality. From me telling people about old time gazettes and this, that, and old going to microfiche, which is digitalized now, as far as old newspapers. And when you go to those old newspapers, some of them are not redacted, but they have been, because you can see other ones that are great quality and other ones that are shabby. But if you keep searching, you will find more and more truth. Here, and why do I say this about Hitler? First of all, he was a vegan. He wasn't harming lives or anything. He was a stark Catholic as far as Christianity. His people came over here and they called it, these Ashkenazis called it cult, to which they practice based on our history from South America. Because I told you we came at the tip and migrated up from Easter Island, all the Samoans and everything. Those are all our relatives, and they're pretty ignorant about the truth too. And they migrate up and out. This is fact, historical. Okay? It's well documented, just hidden. All right? So why would somebody want to go to war with the world? That's not the case. They want to reclaim the lands of the ancestral heritage. And they always want to say racism, but we know who the most racist people on this planet, because they call everybody Goyim. And what is Goyim? It has nothing to do with the Hebraicism or life or our way, because we were one world and there was no totality. We lived together in harmony. Everybody enjoyed the beauty and the sunshine until these bastards came along. Facts. So, on July 13, 1942, just after dawn, a group of German reservists were assembled outside the small Polish town of Józefów. Polish, Poland. Why did they go to Poland? What were we reading in Arthur Koestler's 13 Tribe about Poland? Hence, this is why I do this. These were ordinary Germans who had avoided active frontline military duty by volunteering for what they had expected would be police work in newly occupied territories. Were they newly occupied or just re-attained and asserted lands of the Reinhardt? What do we read about the word Reinhardt? Excuse me. These were not the carefully selected killers making up the Einsatzgruppen or special units of the SS selected for their fanaticism and extreme anti-Semitism, which we know the Jews at that time were not Semitic. They knew that, and everybody else knew that, except for people here studying in this Rockefeller education system to make sure people accept the lie. They were not Semitic. Do you know what that star with the S on it, the seventh, what you call it, man? It was showing that they were not the original people. That's what that was alluding to. So the serial numbers on it, which I don't agree with tattooing anybody with serial numbers, was branding them to show them that they were frauds. We're gonna get beyond this nonsense, because I'm sick of all of it. But none of them were eager to kill Jews. None. Of course not. They shared nationalist sentiments and pride in being German, but their main concern was for returning to their families as soon as possible. They were more than surprised when their commander, Major Wilhelm Trapp, told them their assignment was to kill the Jewish women, children, and old people of the village. Why not the men of fighting age? And to gather up the Jewish or the Ashkenazi males, I will never call them Jewish again, males of working age, as they could be sent to work camps. Trapp gave his order healthily and almost apologetically, and with the added message that men who did not feel up to the task could refrain from doing so without consequences. The reservists then were not coerced to kill. Nevertheless, within hours after Trapp's orders, these ordinary men had not only killed, they had committed mass murder and extraordinary evil. Why? Answers to the questions have varied. Some answers have been attempts to demonize Germans, or at least Germans prior to 1945. However, now you got to remember when 1943 was whenever 33 is when it was set in motion, and 45 because of 43 it kicked off, because you have 42 and 41 and 40 when they were fighting. Are y'all aware of that? Who wrote the history? Okay. The evidence suggests the atrocity of Józefów and many other atrocities throughout history are not due to extraordinary personnel and cultural traits, but to ordinary forces operating within the outside people everywhere. Outside people everywhere. Didn't I make a statement some time ago in one of my videos where the so-called Zionists in England wanted those handful that were still there to be killed? Ostenkopf. They had people there within the German ranks who were Zionists who committed these atrocities against their own people to bring people into a world war. Ashkenazis. And the histories, you can look. I'm not going to give all the sources and references. You can look it up for yourself. Okay? The evidence suggests the atrocities are, okay, anyway. Over and over again, cases of evil deeds, even extraordinary evil deeds, have been found to be deeds carried out by ordinary people who found themselves without an adequate moral compass to navigate in extraordinary circumstances, to which we see a lot of our people doing today. Am I wrong? And what brought it on? Okay? To guide their decision-making, the reservists called upon the lesser values of duty, consideration for comrades, and being manly. A few may have harbored the warped sense of justice concerning Ashkenazis that pervaded Nazi ideology, but for the most part, justice was not what was on their minds. How many of y'all know that World War III was fought between three cousins? All these politicians are related. I don't care if they claim to be Latin, Spanish, Jamaican, African, whatever they, Haitian, I don't care whatever they claim. They're all, whether they're wearing a Gucci costume or whatever, they're all in it together. It's when one phrase that they put them down. Let's go over here. I got some notes I'm going to pull up. Okay. Let's see here. All right. Let's start with this here. We're talking about liberals and conservatives. And we're looking at it right now. And we have each one calling each one fascist, communist, this, that, and the other. Communism, born of the Russian Revolution of 1917, ain't that kind of quaint and funny? What had all been destroyed by that time? World's Fair stuff, right? Up to 1960. Last parts of California in certain places and countries. Subsequently took root in Eastern Europe, China, Southeast Asia, and Cuba, providing the governing ideology for roughly 1/3 of the world's population. 1/3 of the world's population. By the 1970s, in the Holocaust, the hell of lie. Anyway, the Soviet terror of the 1930s, because we know that more gypsies died than anybody, and civilians, way more than all of them. Anyway, Soviet terror of the 1930s, the Chinese Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution, and Cambodia's killing fields. Communism and fascism generated human tragedies on an immense scale. See, right now with these dumb, not even 1% of these teachers and all of them pushing this political communist and fascist and ideologies and everything else, all right, pushing this gay agenda, the government wants to see all of them dead. They want to see them murdered. I don't advocate for violence. What I'm stating is a fact. They want, because it's going to happen. It doesn't matter how. And just like the FBI watching people being dead or playing a part with Mossad agents, everything else, you got to remember, what's the name of the Black Panthers? When he was asleep, he was drugged by one of his own peoples. And they went in there and murdered him, shot him one time, lit up the room, dragged him out in the hallway, popped 2 in the back of his head. You know what I'm talking about. And his son running around with a red, black, and green flag, Africa, and all that. And he was not about Africa. The Black Panther Party separated themselves from PLO and all those organizations. They knew they weren't African. This is the ignorance. And you see, even from those who were born after the father's dead, all right, take on this thing created by federal agents in the Black Panther movement, because we know that there was quite a lot, thousands of them, feds running around, are those who would sell their people out. Even right now, why is it all about Islam? Anyway, not to tap on religion, but it never was in the beginning. Anyway, let's go. Ideologies consist of ideas and values about public life, understanding as to how society works or ought to work. Now, this is sociology, my spectrum, and contain both views of history and visions of the future. So visions are based on a theory of an ideology that could be the conspiracy. So they conspired, right? And the theory is to put out, we know what J.D. Rockefeller and OSS did, the Office of Strategic Services. And we know what the UN's part is in the world, what's called, because they've always existed, the Economic Forum, whatever you want to call them. I don't like giving, I have a hard time a struggle with saying the words or giving names to those things that exist, because it's like giving a little energy and putting power to them, which I am not. That's why it's kind of hard sometimes to say those names, you know. And so you know where I'm going with this as far as what we see now. All right. Excuse me. Anyway, such ideology provided the foundation for social movements, usually embodied in a political organization or a party. In places where movements became regimes, fascists and communists alike had the opportunity to put their ideologies into practice. Now, the effective end of communism occurred very differently from fascism. Its economic and moral failures had eroded support among both elites and ordinary people while generating movements of reform. So they say. We know every time they took the guns, what happened. It doesn't matter where or what time. From the 1920 to the 21st century, what happened whenever they took the guns? Lately, you're seeing certain countries giving the guns back because of things are upheaval. Okay? Nine notes, hold on. Now, what are the political ideologies of fascism? Common themes among fascist movements include authoritarianism. What do we see with the Liberal Party? What do we see with the Conservative Party allowing things to happen as far as what's indicative to the border? You know that claim, we can't be everywhere at every time. So then why would they want to take people's guns or braces? Because we're reading that in A Pale Horse by William Cooper. And everybody wants to still run around, listen to people talking about we Indian. Authoritarianism, nationalism, including racial nationalism, hierarchy and elitism, and militarism. Who created the nationalism or hierarchy of racial nationalism and elitism and materialism? Who created that? Where does this dissension and this new ideology, this new age ideology come from? It has nothing to do with order. It created a diversity of race, ethnicities, colorism. And now today, what you see, other than classism, which they're destroying, is identityism. Anytime you have teacher and people sitting there talking about, yeah, you can call yourself a cat, you can call yourself a dog, you can call yourself a wolf, you can call yourself a this and that, not understanding the truth of the organization behind which pushes it, the perversion. When I was in Palestine, I was there for that gay pride, and I saw all them people running around with that gay, and I was like, that seemed like all the dang fucking Ashkenazis here. Excuse my French. All the friggin', I was like, what is going on? But then you have those who are staunch against it. Somewhat, not all. Anyway, other aspects of fascism, such as its myth of decadence, anti-egalitarianism, and totalitarianism, can be seen to originate from these ideas. So we know that the Republicans, it's our identity they stole. We know that the liberals, or you want to say conservatives, the liberals are the ones that went hard against us. So it's two parties. One who fought us in the end, after the Great Wars, and then the next to usurp our ideology and narrative, our history, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, the Republic, and perverse it. You see that from Ted Cruz all the way up to that fake mayor in New York, that African Sambo. You never hear me call anybody coon. See, people are ignorant, call people coon. My father came from the Coon clan, or the Chickasaw. I always say Chickasaw, but do you speak Chickasaw? And then I realize that's not even the proper way of saying it yet, but I allow it because we have these Mongols and mongrels playing out people that during the Civil War, and even up and after that, there was no mongrel or Mongolian on the East Coast, nowhere near the East Coast, 17, 18, even the early 1900s. Nowhere, 1920, there was no Mongolian over there. Let's give you a little something here. C2J Journal. You can look this up yourself. Left-wing fascism and its war against conservatives. By Len Cohen. Cohen is an Ashkenazi. January 5th, 2022. Now, it's excellent that he wrote this, but listen. What's in a name or a political label? Quite a lot, as it turns out. The standard view that fascism is a phenomenon of the far right has been immensely beneficial to the left, allowing it to conflate conflate virtually any bad political beliefs, tactics, or leaders with conservatism. As Lynn Cohen, whose own political journey has included stopovers on the left, then the right, and middle, before returning to conservatism, has felt the wrath of leftists. This lends a personal dimension, so you know that in between is the moderates, okay? Just by independence. Okay, anyway. Personal dimension to her account of the damage, her is what I meant, done to conservatism through its linkage to fascism. Cohen mounts a spirited case that fascism doesn't even belong on the right, but at the opposite end of the political spectrum. But yet, Kennedy was a liberal, right? And who did they help, seriously help, when they got in office? The Nazis, right? Based on a liberal ideology of fascism, Marxism, totalitarianism, and everything else. Otherwise, the CIA wouldn't use them as a mark to murder them, or the Ashkenaz in those positions, trained and selected. And any other monkey puppet who would partake in it based on what they were allowed to see, hear, or conditioned to believe. Utilizing our old world ways, thinking that because they were in a so-called Masonic ring and this and another, that they really know the truth. No, they're a perversion, a derivative, far from the truth. To hear certain political leaders tell it, one might think there were fascists and racists lurking under every second bed across the continent. Among the earliest promises of Joe Biden's administration was to purge the military of white supremacists, as a prominent headline put it. Now, Biden's new Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, vowed to root out white supremacy and right-wing radicalism in the ranks, and soon ordered every military branch to stand down for a deeper conversation about racism, but yet they jabbed them up. You know how many people we know personally who was children in the military, officers and enlisted, who become sick, heart attacks and everything else, got the jabs and the boosters? So they're murdering them, because that's why Henry Kissinger finally stepped down after being in there longer than any and everybody. They always talking about Biden been in it some years, but no focus on the Ashkenazi, the overseer in the middle. And if you go and look at all the people in certain positions in charge, they're all Ashkenazis. A military facing defeat in Afghanistan and a long-term strategic threat from China was ordered to fixate upon the personal beliefs of its own troops. The hunt for radical right-wingers was also made a main focus of the U.S. Justice Department. Perhaps this wasn't so surprising, for Biden had previously accused his predecessor of being a fascist, who, if not actually another Hitler, was sort of like Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, the one who they wanted to bring over here as well. But when they saw that he was so ingratitude and deep, they worked out his suicide. Anyway, the Nazi propaganda minister, which we know is basically psyops. While such rhetoric is outrageous for any sitting U.S. president, Biden's words and policies reflect the view prevailing throughout the ideological left, which dominates today's Democratic Party. And swaths of the media, one headline, BlackRock, proclaimed Biden not wrong to use the fascist label. Canada has its own, though somewhat mild version of this phenomenon. Prime Minister Trudeau in late 2020, for example, declared that Islamophobia and right-wing extremism have no place in our country, implicitly equating the two. And isn't he totalitarianism? Isn't his actions right there speaking high of that? Now, during the last summer's election campaign, he accused the pugnaciously populist rebel media, which this newspaper account helpfully characterized as a far-right group rather than a journalistic organization. Now, each one of these little media outlets, no matter what they are to drag the ignorant in, whether it be these dumb Pelskins running around in Georgia and Virginia and all these places, running with a rebel flag on their vehicle, talking about my ancestors were all BS. Conservative flag is ours and always has been. The Confederate flag will be is ours and always has been, you perverse individuals who came over here in the between the 1920s and 40s. And many more after that. As we see, you can go and look up you can look up all the ships' logs of how many Pelskins came since 1940. And Arabs, Hindus in the last 15 to 20 years. Go look at that. Look at how all of a sudden in California, New York, in New Jersey, all of a sudden a bunch of Hindus are on the platforms in politics? How come nobody's paying attention to that? Nothing against the Hindustanis, but everything against these bastards who play a part with the World Economic Forum and everything else, who have been grafted in, served in the military, and have the nerve to stand on our land in sublime ignorance to not know the truth. Anyway, of spreading disinformation and misinformation, even holding rebel responsible for fomenting nationwide polarization, and more recently, Trudeau explicitly denounced Canadians who chose not to get the COVID-19 vaccine as very often misogynistic, how you say that word? Misogynistic, I can't even get that word out. And racist, misogynistic, or you know what that word is. I can't stand it. These and innumerable and other instances have a common conceptual basis. As it states, middle of the road conservatives, doctrinaire conservatives, hardcore right-wingers, the so-called alt-right extremists, and ultimately fascists. But we see the liberals are the ones who are carrying out such deeds right now. The pot calling the kettle black when both parties are playing the same trumpet, along with racists and white supremacists. So what's the difference? I remember color had nothing to do with us. Anywho, all coexist on an ideological continuum of the right and on the right. Half of the political spectrum separated only by degrees, and the left has no involvement in any of it. This view permeates intellectual circle jerks. The news media and the cultural industries, which spent the years prior to Biden's election working themselves into a lather about the apprehended rise of right-wing extremism, or even, as one put it, 1930s style European fascism, often attributed to the focal point of their fears, like Donald Trump. While not everyone goes that far, which Donald Trump helped the Negroes more than anything, even though he was the slower death, still part of their death, Biden's the faster. Negroes are dumb, and they don't know no better, just like the rest of the world. And the Peckerwoods running around talking about looking all retarded and everything, don't even know their true history. Now, point regarding this ideological continuum goes virtually unquestioned throughout society. Indeed, the logic of labeling any conservative as potentially extremist or proto-fascist depends on it. It does. It keeps the division and separation, to which nobody will look at the past and see what is happening right now before them. If you forget the past, you're what? Doomed to repeat. And it often works before Trump. Previous Republican President George W. Bush was called Bush Shitler. And in Canada, I remember that. We called him that. Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper was often accused of harboring fascist tendencies or a sinister ultra-right-wing hidden agenda. And for every president or prime minister so labeled, there has been innumerable lesser politicians, journalists, academia, and other public figures. But what if the basic underlying assumption isn't even valid? What if fascism as an ideology and method of practicing politics does not belong in its assigned location on the political spectrum? Well, you didn't know I was going somewhere with that, did you? Even with me inputting and ascertaining things. Right now, you look at Chicago, New York, this, that, and the other. They still have Negroes believing they're 12%, 13% of the population. How do you take a quarter of the population of America being Negroes and make them 12 to 13% of the population when the pale skins are lesser than us? But if you use the word white, now you have a broader spectrum of ideology, because our people are running around playing, I'm white and Indian. It's a status, no more, no less. And I don't even carry myself in that fictional status, because we, white purity, and belong to our people and our ancestors of Tartaria long ago, when black was a mark showing that you had no melanin, not that much, or even to the albines or albinos. Do you see what they have done? They have mixed everything up, turned it around, flipped it up on its head, and nobody's for the better as far as understanding or seeing. It's very perverse, isn't it? And more of this needs to get out as far as the truth of it. The problem is we still have people saw that I was going live, and the first thing these idiots did was they went live. You know why? They don't want to lose their people. Now they're making $1. I love reading. I don't like politics. I don't recognize no federal or government organization. They have actually learned to leave me alone. Why? Have any of y'all done the research on the things I said? When I said I worked mumbo jumbo? No, a doctor did something to me to give me a little time clock that if I do this, this will happen. I'm wondering if he's even alive physically. See, the reality of the situation is, don't just speak something and think you believe it. Know what you're saying and know that it's based on a fact. Do not be reprobate. Do not be repetitive. You state it. You are frequency. You are infinite. You are immortal. You are greater than anything moving in the lie. Appreciate y'all taking the time to listen. Wes, I'll be going live a little later. I'll find out what time he'll be going, and I'll be getting my read on before that. I appreciate you all. I truly do. I just want you to go ahead and speak on these things, as I always ask of you. I appreciate you all. And my donation pot's still open. And yes, I got a thing today. One of the books, they returned the funds. It was $7.99, 8 taxes, $8.75 for a certain book, but they gave me the site to go and reorder it. So I reordered it for $1 less. So that's another $1. Well, it's going to stay in the account because I can't put it back in Cashapp. So hopefully I get that book sooner than coming from Prime, which I have an account with. I believe I do. I should. I think I pay $14 a month for Prime. Anyway, yeah, you guys can still hit it up. You ain't gotta be rich or broke. You just a few dollars. That's all, and that helps me to keep purchasing these books until we're unable. Maybe if I was to ascend, the movie Powder, running into the lightning. Anywho, somebody would come across the books and be like, "Whoa," and keep them instead of like some of these people. They throw books away. It's just arduously insane. Okay. So I'll see y'all here in a few hours, all right? And we'll get to read on. And Westside, let me know what time you're going to go, all right? Send me what you call it. Yes, Fred Hammond. I didn't want to say his name. Exactly. Rondo, Snoo, Mikey, Matthew, Grey Wolf, T. Hines. What was that? I know you're resting, baby. I know you had to have that day off. Westside. Lamone's Jr., Herbo. Yeah, oh, yeah, right. Appreciate that. Yeah. And Stillville. Anyway, I appreciate you guys coming in. It's nothing but love and respect. I can do that all day for you guys. My beloved sisters and those who come in. And like I said, we have one new subscriber. Let's keep them rolling in. I have a story to tell. All right. To my brothers, it's always 2 and 1. And to those soldiers out there and those who have families, it's to the ones who have passed the Memorial Day. And like I said, we created the Memorial Day, just as we did the fictional 4th of July. The world is turned upside on its head, and the only hope is you. Okay? You have a wonderful day. I'll see you all in a little bit.